Hello, and welcome back to Highlights from the Hill. I'm Jim Cousins, one of your co-hosts, and with me is Dr. McLeod.
Great to be back.
Thank you. It's good to be here again. And this episode is all about the middle school. So we'll have an interview with Mr. Keller, and we'll have a video about the middle school. But before we get to that, we have a few students joining us here today.
And I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for coming. It really is a nice addition to the show to have students actually be here. So today we have 3 middle school students. We have Joel, Emily, and Joe. And thank you again for being here. I know that you are going to talk about the club that you have at the school, right? The TV club?
Yes,
So I'll
exactly.
turn it back to you.
Yep, so I run an after-school club at the middle school on Wednesdays called HMS TV, and the show that we do is called HMS Today, which is a morning announcement show that airs every Friday morning. And recently, I've been getting some really cool feedback from the students. One student, Nathaniel, wrote, "You guys are so funny, keep up the work." Spencer wrote, "You guys are the best." Another person wrote, "You are the highlights to my Fridays."
Oh,
and these guys
so nice.
also submitted some feedback. So I'm really glad that you're able to be here. And I was just wondering if you could just talk to us a little bit about what you think about the show. What do you like about it? And
Well, I really like it because it's after like a long week of normal announcements. It's really great to have like a lot of other stuff like question of the day and see what's going on with the school.
That's a really good. Question of the day, I will have to say, is probably one of our most famous segments.
Yeah.
I walk into the middle school and people go, "Oh, it's the HCAM man. Can I answer the question of the day?"
Nice. HCAM man.
Yeah. Emily, how about you?
Well, I also really like to have you seen this because I usually try to find it. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I've won it a couple times.
That's excellent.
Oh, can you tell me about that? I don't know about that.
Oh, well, there's usually like a zoomed-in picture of something in the school, and then you try to find it, and then you send an email about where it is.
So give me an example. What was one?
I think the last one was like, it was a painting above the stairs in the 6th grade hallway.
Cool.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
That is great.
And then the next episode, we'll try to show a wider shot so they can see where it came from.
That's neat.
And then we pull a couple names, and a couple
Yeah.
guys win prizes.
Fun.
Yeah.
I really like Fun Fact Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mr. Rockwood loves doing it. He's been doing that from the beginning, and he's so awesome. Because, you know, if he's busy on a Wednesday, he will say, "I can come in on Thursday. Can I tape it then?"
Yeah.
Because he really likes being in the show.
Are you also in the club?
I'm not, but a lot of my friends. I'm not, but a few of my friends are.
Yeah.
Actually, I would have to say Joe is probably an honorary member of the
Yeah.
club because he is on just about every single episode.
So you could always join.
Answering the
Yeah.
question of the
Yeah,
day.
definitely. What grade are you in?
7th,
Oh, so you might join next year even.
maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, we're not going to commit on television
That's
to
right.
anything.
That's right. I'll let you know we have a new segment that we're going to be starting now too. I went to the high school and interviewed some kids there and said, like, you know, what do you think if you could go back into middle school? What, you know, like, what would you do differently? And looking forward to high school, what would you tell your middle school self to expect going to high school? So we're going to be starting that up too.
That is great.
And now we should transition to our video.
Yes, so we're going to be looking at a video, a day in the life at the middle school, as we've been doing at all of the other schools. I do understand that Mr. Keller wanted to make sure that his video was top-notch and that they did really have to put on roller skates to get to everything that they got to in this video.
Yes.
And I'm sure it will not disappoint. I think this idea of doing a day in the life has been a wonderful way for people in the community and even people who are outside of our community, maybe thinking of moving to Hopkinton, can really get a glimpse inside the schools. And so I think the opportunity to talk to Mr. Keller about the things that we're going to be seeing in the video will be great.
Excellent.
And then I'll just suddenly change it to maybe something like this, like this, or whatever. And then, you know, I'll just change it to something else, like it could be like this.
Girl Scouts. We're doing media and Girl Scouts right now.
Right, so media is all around us, and some good examples we gave. Newspaper is an example of media. Books are media. What else do you know about it?
Yeah, so there's like a lake or something, right? And then all of these, can you tell what these are?
I see. But
a polynomials that when a, so the coefficient for x is greater than y.
yeah.
So
Hay cuatro preguntas en la pizarra. 4 questions on the board to answer on your think boards, please. Just do your best.
Wasn't that great to see just an opportunity to get inside the middle school and to feel like, you know, we have an idea of the many, many opportunities that
Yes.
take place. And I am so excited to have Alan Keller here with us this afternoon. Thanks for coming, Alan.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Because I wanted to really have an opportunity to talk with you and have people that are watching understand just the uniqueness of this age group that we call the middle school. And I wanted to begin by having you talk a little bit with us about, you know, what is special about this group, both from the perspective of learning and also teaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you used the word unique, and it definitely is. I mean, one of the things that it's when I made the career choice to go to a middle school, most of the people that know me or knew me at the time were like, "Are you crazy for choosing middle school?" And I think it takes a unique person to want to do middle school, but I have found, and the middle school educators in the building that we have at Hopkinton Middle School are all people who really like working with this age group. So it takes a unique person, certainly, but in my opinion and everybody's opinion that work there, that it's the best age. There's so much going on for young adults, and you know the research says that students at that age are going through more changes than any other phase of their life other than infancy. But when they're this old, or when they're in infants, they don't really see those changes happening, whereas they're witnesses to their own.
And what was that comparison? Because I think you told it to me not long ago. Is it the first 12 months?
Yeah, yes,
right?
exactly,
So
yes.
The changes that take place in middle school are comparable to just, and when you think of how quickly babies change in 12 months, it was kind of an astounding fact for me to think about that. So let's break it down.
Sure.
Let's talk first socially.
Yeah.
What are some of those changes?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, obviously, you know, kids are coming from, I mean, one of the things that we talk about a lot is that 6th grade, when students come to us in 6th grade, they're still very much elementary students. And so, you know, their friend groups revolve around, you know, potentially where their parents are friends with these parents, and so they wind up having friend groups around that. And that starts to change. We start to see some changes, and some of that happens before they get to middle school, but we start to see friend groups changing quite a bit. You know, we start to begin to see interest in potentially in opposite genders, and so things like that. So we see a lot of that, and of course we have guidance counselors at each grade level, and adjustment counselor and a school psychologist that all play a big role in helping students navigate what can sometimes be difficult social parameters that they need to navigate around. And we work really hard to make sure that students have a connection with their guidance counselor. And you know, the guidance counselors go down to Hopkins and speak to the students at Hopkins. They then come and meet with them before the school year starts. And of course, over the summer, we meet with students and we meet with parents, and we're making sure that they're always having those connections and know different places around the school that they can connect. And then we also have our Ignite program. So one of the ways that we transition students into middle school, one of the, I think, in my opinion, is one of the real highlights of Hopkinton Middle School is the way we transition students. So we have so actually right around this time of year, we put an application process out to 7th graders that want to be part of our Ignite program. And essentially, Ignite program is a kind of advisee program where when those 7th graders who are accepted in the program become 8th graders, they connect with 6th graders. So usually 2 Ignite advisors develop a relationship with 10 to 12 6th graders. They make that connection over the summer, call home, send a letter home, say, you know, I'll be seeing you at orientation day, looking forward to it, I'm going to be your Ignite advisor. And so it used to just be an orientation where in the summer they would come together and they would do a lot of things, a lot of activities, getting to know the middle school, getting to know the people and the places. But we've worked really hard over the years, and we've got 3 Ignite advisors that have really made sure that the program doesn't just stop over the summer, that it continues throughout that year. And so they watch a movie together and then lead a discussion group during one of our, what we call Hiller blocks.
I'm always amazed at how confident the 6th graders are. I'm feeling like, but that's because of all the work that you've done throughout the summer, since before the summer, and then they know where they can go for help. So the confidence that the kids are showing, even when they don't know exactly where to go, they know that they can find help. You have staff in the hallways, you have Ignite members in the hallways, and they know that they can simply go up and then somebody will help them and they don't have to feel embarrassed.
Right. I mean, I think back to my first experience when I actually went to a private grade school and then switched to a public high school, and thinking about you know, not knowing anybody, not having any faces around, and just being really uncomfortable. And so we work really hard to make sure that that doesn't happen. And I think it's and you know, the other thing that we've done over the years too that was really good, and you know, as part of my school council, some parents made suggestions about, you know, we're accustomed to so much kind of hand-holding at the elementary level, and I'm not using that term in a negative way, but you know, the students are kind of led everywhere, and parents are in some ways too. And they come to the middle school, and it's all of a sudden it's this dramatic change. And so one of our goals from a couple years ago was to have a parent who's been through middle school actually talk to incoming 6th grade parents, and so that's made a huge difference. And then we kind of have those as talking points, because a lot of things we, you know, not being a parent in the school, we just kind of make assumptions about, and that's and I feel like that's really helped. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but that, I think we've heard from parents and from students that the transition to middle school, coming out of that elementary, has been a successful one.
Yeah, and I think you're always very responsive to that parent input. You know, I mean, even as we were talking earlier, the changes that have been made to the report cards, for example, maybe this is a good time for you to talk about increasing independence and some of the changes that have happened over the past couple of years.
Right. Yeah. So that's so one of so we look at our job as middle school educators is to take the kids from being elementary students and prepare them for high school. Of course, they are still middle school, so I really try and avoid saying we're getting you ready for high school, but we're just you know, 7th grade looks a little bit different than 6th grade. 8th grade looks a little bit different than 7th grade, and so we gradually try and provide more independence and more opportunities. And so so it was great to see the students here talking about their experience in clubs, and that's been one of our points of emphasis, is getting kids involved in all phases of the school. So Jim's been doing the HMS TV Club, which has been tremendous, not only for the kids in the club, but as you heard today, for the kids in their classrooms to sit and watch that on Fridays to see, to be able to see some of the things that are happening around the school. And then with grades, so so we used to release grades, you know, once a month, and then at report card time, and the parents and the students essentially would have to ask their parents for their grades. And again, it was one of those things where all of a sudden we looked at it and we're like, that doesn't make sense. So so now over the past 2 years, we've allowed students to be able to access their grades, which only makes sense. So as they come into 6th grade, the teachers meet with the students and share with them their passwords and their login, and so now the students can see their grades. And now actually we have opened up grades 24/7, so students and parents have access to their grades constantly, so we're no longer doing the progress reports, and that's been helpful and beneficial. And students, we find that students are actually more closely monitoring their progress, and we're not that we don't want parents involved, obviously we do, but you know, the preference is to begin to have students be advocates for themselves and meet and talk to teachers.
And so we're moving into the academic part of things now. It makes me think about when you say that the grades are accessible 24/7 to kids, to parents, but also to teachers. So how does that inform our instruction?
Right. So one of the things that we you know, in the middle school, we're in teams, and one of the pieces you get to see in the film is where there's a team of teachers meeting together. And so we have during the day, so when students go to related arts, and we didn't get a chance, and maybe we will, but maybe not. But related arts is definitely, again, one of the, I think, strengths of the middle school. We have a lot of offerings that students go to. And you know, they're pieces that students get an opportunity to be exposed to something that they otherwise might not be able to. And we've had kids come back and say, you know, I never thought about doing this, or I was never into art, and then I took this class that I didn't think was an art class. It was dynamic media, and I really have taken an affinity for toward photography. And so while students are in those classes, actually the academic teachers have what we call professional learning communities, And so or a team meeting. So one of two things happen. So the team, being the math, science, social studies, and English teachers, have an opportunity to get together, and they will talk about students and how they're progressing in their class, or they'll talk about an upcoming event that they're planning for students. And then so that's kind of the team meeting, and then the professional learning community meeting is like teachers. So I believe we looked at an 8th grade PLC in the video, and so they were looking, there was our English teachers and a special educator that were sitting down and looking at an assessment. And so they were discussing student work. And so one of the things that we've worked extensively on is having the teachers looking at the student work and then commenting and saying, geez, 50% of our students struggled with, question 11 if we're looking at a multiple choice thing. So then the teachers will begin to say, what do you think it was about question 11? Sometimes it's the question. Sometimes the question wasn't worded well. Sometimes it's the way that we taught it. Sometimes it's the way that 2 of us taught it, whereas Mr. Cousins over here might have done a wonderful job teaching it. So then the 2 of us will say, how did you teach it? And help us understand as professionals maybe something we could be doing a little bit better.
Yeah, and I don't think people have any idea, that we're at that level of scrutiny in terms of being able to use data in a way that really helps us to make decisions about teaching. So that's a really great example. What are some other things that we saw in the day in the life that you'd like to point out?
Right. So so we saw. So I mentioned we saw the team meeting. So related arts, I'll talk briefly about that. So in the past 2 years, we have increased our engineering program. So this is our 2nd year of having a full grade 6, 7, and 8 engineering program. So students, when they enter grade 6, they take a class called Energy in the Environment, where they're learning about how energy is produced and the impact it has on the environment. And so they get an opportunity. In the video, you see students where they were changing variables, and so they were looking at different variables like the speed of the fan. They looked at different ways that they could build a blade on a propeller. And so they were modifying those things and seeing what the result of it was, how fast the blade was able to spin. And it's really a very problem-based classroom where they start out with a problem, and the students have an opportunity in groups to attempt to solve it. And then they basically build a model using drafting software that professionals use, and then actually get an opportunity to build it. In 7th grade, those students in engineering then have an opportunity to take design and modeling, and the focus of that program is to really be thinking like engineers, and teaching some of those skills. And in 8th grade, it's automation and robotics. So we've been very proud of the progress we've made with that program. Something else you saw in the video is a foreign language classroom, and when teachers walk into that classroom, or when people walk into that classroom, they're always concerned because the kids are writing on the desks. And, and actually, there's a film on there. The Ed Foundation gave us a grant last year for this new material that actually goes on the desk, and everybody in the building has been kind of jealous of it because so the teacher has an opportunity to throw out a question, and the kids have an opportunity to write down the answer, and the teacher can kind of quickly go around and see how kids are doing. And it's a great formative assessment, a quick check to see how well they're doing and how well they're understanding it.
Yeah. And what a great way of understanding their thinking, right? So it seems to me that that's what they're jotting down about what they're thinking, their processing part. That's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that I find amazing when I go in and make videos and I go into the classes and I see some of the clubs is just how autonomous the students are becoming. I went into one of the related arts classes, and there were some kids against the wall who were like interacting with somebody on Skype or something like that, demonstrating the project they had made. Other kids were doing, they were constructing these things, and they would go over to the teacher if they had like a question about how something would work, but they were all doing their own thing. And when I go in to do all the clubs, it's like a lot of them are like almost student directed. The teacher is there, but the club person, but they're like really stepping up and taking charge, which.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, and that's great. That's one of I think the wonderful things about middle school. I think it can be one of the challenges too, right? I mean, the kids are in very different places. So in an academic classroom, that is definitely students start to separate themselves in some ways, and so it's a responsibility upon us as educators is to meet the various needs in a classroom. And so, I was in a classroom today actually where. The students did an opening activity, and then based on how they performed that opening activity, the teachers went over it, and the students self-corrected or made corrections and adjustments to that. And then and the students, then there were stations throughout the classroom, and the students had to choose. And initially, when I heard them say, you choose where you want to go based on how you performed on this, I'm expecting everybody to go to the easy one. But the teachers have set up the classroom so the students know that they've got to continuously challenge themselves if they want to meet the goals that they have set for themselves. Then they need to, so the kids were going to all the different places, and as I was asking questions, they say, well, I missed 2 of these questions in this strand, so I've got to make sure that I get this.
That is impressive.
So that's one of the things we've worked on as well is I mentioned earlier students having access to grades, and a lot of the teachers have been working with students on what are your goals, what do you want to accomplish this year. We've got, we've had some professional development a couple of years ago where students now in many classes will, while they're taking an assessment, they'll answer, as they're answering the question, am I confident in my answer? Do I think I know it, or am I guessing? And so they're not only answering the question, but they're also being reflective, metacognitive, essentially, about their understanding of it. And so the goal of that is to really try and think about their thinking and the way they're approaching something. So then afterwards, when they look at how they did, they can have a conversation about, so you were confident in this answer, and yet you didn't do well. So what can we work on? Do we need to work on study skills?
Yeah.
Do we need to work on research?
So can you just briefly comment on what are the benefits of the team approach and why it works so well at the middle school?
Yeah, I would love to. So I think that when people talk about middle school, I think that's one of the essential pieces of having kids on the team. So teams, so we have 3 teams in grade 6, 3 and 7, and 3 and 8. And essentially there's anywhere from 85 to 105 kids on a team. And so the purpose of teams is just to have kind of a small group of, and almost like a family. And so they're organized by color, and the teams do different activities throughout the year. Like there are team activities where all the students will wear, and so in grade 6 we have red, blue, and yellow teams, and so they'll wear colors on that day, and they'll do different activities. But also, as I mentioned earlier, there's team meetings, and so sometimes the teams will get together and they'll say, this student is really struggling.
Yeah.
How is he doing in your classroom?
Yeah.
And so we have conversations, and that allows us then to have an opportunity to say, you know what, let's reach out to this parent. We might need to have the parent or parents come in and have a conversation.
Yeah.
But it's just by having a small group and having that identity and really kind of coming together as a family, it's an opportunity to know the kids better, to be talking regularly and frequently about their progress.
Yeah. I've gone to those meetings, and it feels like family.
Yeah.
It feels like family talking about, a sibling or something, just sharing thoughts and concerns. And I want to thank you for being here today, but I also want to thank you for being the principal at the middle school for, is it year 7?
This is year 7.
See, yes. I got it right this time.
Yes.
So, because you've brought a lot of change, a lot of really positive change to the middle school. And I know off camera, Alan, you and I have talked about the fact that it takes 5 years of leadership to really, be able to put things in place that really can sustain themselves, I guess. But what you talked about your faculty earlier on, everyone loves to be there. It's always a warm and welcoming place. I'm sure you feel that too. And that's to your credit. And I'm just very happy that you continue to be willing to take that on and love the uniqueness of the middle school. So
well, thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So what's next?
So we have one more thing. It's not exactly about the middle school, but it is going to kind of feed into that.
Yeah.
We had some good news from special town meeting the other night.
Right. So special town meeting, of course, takes place at the middle school auditorium, and we were delighted to have unanimous approval for an addition to the to be named new school that's in the middle of being built. So I just wanted to really give a shout out to the cooperation and collaboration across the town from so many committees. The ESBC, of course, has led all of the work, but the school committee, the selectmen, CIC, planning board, appropriations, everybody really understood the importance of the timing of this addition and what it will mean for the district going forward. And so it was a lot of work. I should also, of course, include our architect and our OPM, who, when we were given these new numbers, didn't skip a beat in, okay, well, this is what we need to do, and we need to do it quickly. And so it's going to turn out that there will be a seamless addition to the building project and that we'll have the number of classrooms that we need to be able to sustain appropriate class size of 18 to 20 in for our youngest learners, K1, for the foreseeable future. So I just wanted to thank everybody for all of your help in making that happen. And I guess to thank you, Alan, for always accommodating all of the requests for the middle school. It seems to be the place to be, whether it's special town meeting or special events, voting. It's your building. So.
And we're very happy that you joined us today, too. And we hope that you tune in next time for the next Highlights from the Hill.
Hi, my name is Margie Wiggin, and I want to invite you to join me for my new show, Character Matters, on HCAM. We're going to talk about why do people choose the behavior that they choose? Why do they choose to be good? We're going to hear from people in history. We're going to hear from local heroes who make great choices. And we're going to hear from some puppets who talk about things they've seen, and they're going to say, "What? Did you see that?" "Yes, I did." Please join us.